What's up, guys? Welcome to the Line Change. In this video, we're going to continue our series on how well do certain Canucks players stack up to the rest of their respective draft classes. In this one, we're going to be looking at Thatcher Demko, and 11 years later, how does Demko stack up to the rest in the 2014 NHL Entry Draft? Obviously, we're going to go over an article that talks about this. We're also going to go over not necessarily a separate article, but I also have a list of all the goaltenders that were drafted in the 2014 draft. So this one's going to be a little bit different. For most of these videos, we talk about who is all drafted in their respective draft classes. Now, obviously, with Demko being a goalie, it doesn't make much sense to look at, forwards or defensemen who were drafted in this draft class, even though there are a handful, guys like Leon Draisaitl, Sam Reinhart, Sam Bennett were drafted in the 2014 NHL Entry Draft, but they don't really pertain to Demko and, how he stacks up against the rest in his draft class because Demko's a goalie. So we're going to look at that. But before I do that, I want to quickly give a shout out and thank you to my sponsor, Gassy Jack Art, maker of that incredible artwork you see there behind me. And you guys can check them out yourselves at gassjackart.com. There is a link in the description down below. You can also check them out on Instagram at gassjackart. So let's go ahead and dive right into the article. Obviously brought to us by our friends at Canucks Army. This one is written by Jeff Patterson, JPAD, someone who we had on the podcast a couple of weeks ago. And he goes on to say, next up is Thatcher Demko, who the Canucks selected with their third pick, 36th overall in the second round in the 2014 NHL Entry Draft in Philadelphia. Thatcher Demko was one of 21 goalies selected in the 2014 draft and was the second one selected, 2 picks after Calgary began that year's run of net minors, nabbing Mason McDonald, who never played an NHL game. Carolina selected Alex Nedeljkovic with the pick after Demko, while Washington took Vitek Vanacek 3 spots after the Canucks drafted Demko. The Blue Jackets and Islanders both landed future starters in the third round of the draft when they opted for Elvis Merzlikins and Ilya Sorokin, but the big winner of the 2014 draft when it came to goalies has been the New York Rangers, using a 4th round pick, 118th overall, to land Igor Shesterkin. With back-to-back Stanley Cup finals involving Florida and Edmonton, we have been reminded repeatedly that the top of the 2014 draft class has turned into a special group. Aaron Ekblad, Sam Reinhart, Leon Draisaitl, and Sam Bennett were the first 4 picks made that year. It's a first round that also launched William Nylander, Nikolai Ehlers, Kevin Fiala, Dylan Larkin, Alex Tuch, David Pastrnak, and Adrian Kempe. And Vancouver, however, it will always be remembered as the year the Canucks whiffed on Jake Virtanen, 6th overall, and to a lesser extent, Jared McCann with the 24th selection, when Pastrnak went 25th to Boston. While the top of the 2014 draft has yielded plenty of primetime players and some of the biggest names currently in the game, several later round picks paid off handsomely. Tampa Bay found Braden Point in the 3rd round. He is behind only Draisaitl and Pastrnak in point production from that draft. The Islanders nabbed Devon Taves in the 4th round that year, while the Canucks made a terrific 5th round selection in Gustav Forsling. It's just too bad his 2 Stanley Cup wins came elsewhere, in Florida. Other long shots from 2014 that have become NHL regulars: Victor Arvidsson, 4th round for Nashville; Danton Heinen, 4th round for Boston; Kevin Labanc, 6th round for San Jose; and Jake Middleton, who was the final player selected that year, 210th overall in the 7th round by Los Angeles. And no 2014 draft review worth its salt would miss the opportunity to mention the Canucks took Nikita Teremachin in the 3rd round, 66th overall. But let's get to the point of this video, and how does Demko stack up? It's always difficult to size up goaltenders against positional players when revisiting a draft class. Skaters can be ranked in terms of point production, but it's hard to know where exactly to slot in goalies versus the guys that play in front of them. Really, goalies have to be graded twice when reviewing their draft year. They are measured against skaters, sure, but they also have to be graded against their peer group. In any redraft of 2014, Thatcher Demko would surely go higher than his original 36th overall selection. Based on his career body of work, it's almost certain the San Diego native would rise into the bottom third of the first round. He very well may still be the second goalie to go in a 2014 redraft. Only this time, he'd be behind Igor Shesterkin. It's also quite possible he'd fall third, teams opting for Sorokin. Regardless, all these years later, Demko has emerged as a clear top 3 goalie from his draft class, and it's safe to say he's been one of the best 30 players selected that year. So in conclusion, landing a Vezina caliber goalie with a second-round pick, the Canucks hit the jackpot, selecting Thatcher Demko where they did in 2014. He has easily developed into the team's most valuable selection from that draft. Obviously, Gustav Forsling has gone on to win multiple Stanley Cups and has had far more individual success than Demko. But he did it with his 4th NHL franchise. Jared McCann has had a solid NHL career too, but only 69 of his 668 games came in Canuck colors. No one else selected by the Canucks that year has delivered more value to the team itself. Based on his draft year, Demko is the longest tenured Canuck player these days and has developed into a leader in the locker room. Injuries have limited his workload in recent seasons and have played a role in his limited exposure to playoff action. The team has had many missteps on and off the ice over the past 11 seasons, but selecting Demko where they did in the 2014 draft represents a significant win for the hockey club. So that is the article, but we're going to go over a not necessarily an article, but we're going to go over something else that really dives into the Vancouver Canucks. So let's go ahead and bring it up right here on the screen, right here. And right now we are looking at a list of goalies drafted in 2014. Obviously, as what J-Pat mentioned, Mason McDonald went 34th overall in the second round, did not play a single NHL game. And then you have Thatcher Demko at 36th overall, Ned Delkovich, Vanacek, Brendan Halverston, who only played one game in the NHL, Jonas Johansson, Merzlikins, Sorokin, Husso, Linus Soderstrom, Kakinen, Nagovort, Moran, there's Shesterkin right there, Chase Perry, Alec Dillon, Maximilian Pagepak, I don't know how to pronounce that, Hayden Hockey, Ivan Nalimov, Hugo Fagerblom, and Kevin Bouchard. Obviously, not a whole lot of well-known names except for a certain amount of few. Now, obviously, you have Thatcher Demko here at the top, second, 219 games played, 116 wins, 81 losses, 17 overtime losses, a 2.79 goals against average, and a 0.912 save percentage, 8 shutouts, a goal differential of 39.1, and a 140.6 goals above replacement. If you look down the list, Delkovich, 141 games played, 60 wins, 45 losses, 22 overtime losses, a 2.96 goals against average, a 0.906 save percentage, 8 shutouts, and a minus 1.2 goal differential, and a 60.2 goals above replacement. And you have Vanacek, 163 games played, 91 wins, 42 losses, 17 overtime losses, a 2.70 goals against, 0.905 save percentage, 9 shutouts, a minus 1.8 goal differential, and a 63.4 goals above replacement. You had, as I mentioned, Halverson only played one game, did not get a win, had a 4.78 goals against average, 0.833 save percentage, 0 shutouts, a minus 0.5 goal differential, and a minus 0.4 goals above replacement. And you have Jonas Johansson, 61 games played, 23 wins, 20 losses, 9 overtime losses, a 3.34 goals against average, a 0.888 save percentage, 3 shutouts, a minus 28.2 goal differential, and a minus 3.9 goals above replacement. And you have Merzlikins, 191 games played, 68 wins, 79 losses, 30 overtime losses, a 3.20 goals against average, 0.904 save percentage, 10 shutouts, a minus 12.3 goal differential, and he's 75.0 goals above replacement. You have Sorokin, 192 games played, 95 wins, 65 losses, 30 overtime losses, a 2.54 goals against, 0.919 save percentage, 18 shutouts, a 83.0 goal differential, and 170.9 goals above replacement. Ville Husso, 132 games played, 69 wins, 40 losses, 16 overtime losses, 3.01 goals against average, 0.902 save percentage, 7 shutouts, a minus 11.2 goal differential, and 46.7 goals above replacement. You have Kakinen at 139 games played, 49 wins, 67 losses, 15 overtime losses, a 3.33 goals against average, 0.899 save percentage, 4 shutouts, a minus 29.5 goal differential, and a 33.6 goals above replacement. Then you have Shesterkin, 213 games played, 135 wins, 59 losses, 17 overtime losses, a 2.43 goals against average, a 0.921 save percentage, 15 shutouts, a 99.4 goal differential, and 194.7 goals above replacement. And that's all the stats that you see. So if we're really looking at it, Demko leads the way with games played with 219, just 6 more than Igor Shesterkin. Obviously, Shesterkin leads the way with 135 wins, just about 11 more than Thatcher Demko. Obviously, leads the way when it comes to losses, although Nedeljkovic has only 45, Vanacek has only 42, then you have Husso, who only has 40. And then with shutouts, obviously it's Sorokin with leading the way with 18, followed closely behind by Shesterkin, and then Merzlikins, followed by Vanacek, and then obviously Nedeljkovic and Demko with 8. Now, when it comes to goal differential, obviously out of the bunch, Shesterkin has the best goal differential at 99.4, and the second best belongs to Sorokin at 83.0, followed closely behind by Thatcher Demko at 39.1. Now, for the goals above replacement, obviously Shesterkin is in the lead for that, 194.7, and then you have 170.9 for Sorokin, and then 140.6 for Demko. So Demko is third in that category. So you can basically see, obviously, as like what JPat mentioned, Demko is likely behind both Sorokin and Shesterkin when it comes to a redraft. He would likely be the third goalie drafted. But as you can see from here, he leads in one category, and that is, of course, games played, which is surprising. Definitely surprised me when I looked at this, considering the amount of injuries that Demko has had throughout his career, but he's managed to play 6 more games than Igor Shesterkin, and he's also managed to play more games than Sorokin. So it's very interesting. So as we mentioned, Demko would likely be a first round. If there was a redraft, he'd be a first round pick. Absolutely. And I want to know what you guys think in the comment section down below, what you guys think of this. And as always, if you guys like this video, be sure to hit that like button. And if you want to stay up to date on all your Vancouver Canucks content, be sure to smash that subscribe button and turn on your notifications so you don't miss a single video. You can also, if you want to follow and interact with us on social media, you can find us on Facebook. Just search The Line Change to find our Facebook page. You can find us on Instagram at The Line Change. You can find us on X at Line Change Man. You can find us on TikTok at The TLC Podcast. You can also find us on Blue Sky at The Line Change. And feel free to give us a follow on all of our social media platforms. If you prefer an audio version of this podcast, you can find us on both Spotify and Apple Podcasts. On Spotify, feel free to give us a follow as well as rate and review us. It is, of course, greatly appreciated. But that's going to do it for me in this video. As always, go Canucks go, and I'll see you guys in the next video.